You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a wash machine.
With a scooping header
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Отдача, Holden! Все-таки забил!
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0! Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on SouthamptonDelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. And of course, Saints are off this week. It's been the international break. Players are spread both across Europe and at Staplewood, getting ready for the return of the Premier League season and trying to qualify for the Euros. And hopefully everybody returns safe and sound back to St. Mary's, where we can get ready for the return of the Premier League, as we said earlier. But not all league football was off this weekend. And no, I'm not talking about our friends in the lower leagues who don't necessarily get the international break because none of their players go. I'm talking about the kickoff of the Women's Super League. This weekend marked the opening round of fixtures for the league, and the league started off with a bunch of big derbies, played in many instances in men's grounds with fairly full stadiums. And it's really nice to see the buzz and impact of the Women's World Cup kind of staying alive, and to kind of capture that and talk about that a little bit. I have this week two members of the Southampton Women's Football Club. And I say members, I'm not just talking about players on the field. This week I had the opportunity to speak with Hayley Newman, who is the club's media manager. So all the tweets, all the website stuff, everything like that, all the interviews, she does it all. And Philippa Holden, who plays as a midfielder for the club. So you can get them on Twitter at Newman Hay and at Philippa Holden. Links, of course, are in the show notes. And the club itself is on Twitter at SOTON Women's FC. That's also the same address on Instagram. And you get even more links on their website at southamptonwfc.co.uk. And it's always a pleasure to be able to speak with anybody associated with the club and to be given the opportunity to talk with players and learn more about their stories and the manager and everything else. And to find out a little bit more about Hayley and how she got into media in the first place and about her journey to the club and everything like that. So it's been a real pleasure, as always, to be able to sit down and do this. And they were kind enough to give me their time in the middle of a super busy week for them, 3 games in 7 days, including a midweek match against the women's team associated with Southampton FC, a 0-0 draw, but plenty to talk about and write about there for Hayley, and a tough match played at night on Wednesday. And then they followed that up yesterday on Sunday with a trip to Exeter City, where they came out, we'll say, winners. And by winners, I mean they won 8-2. We'll just leave that there. All right. And so let's get to my interview with Hayley and Philippa. And thank you again to them and to everyone at the club for allowing me to talk and be a part of this. And thank you to you, of course, for listening. And I will talk to you on the other side of the show. I'd like to welcome to the Southampton Delivery Podcast 2 members of the Southampton Women's Football Club. And one works kind of behind the scenes and one is on the pitch. And we have Hayley Newman and Philippa Holden here with us. And thank you both for joining the show.
No, thank you very much. Nice chatting with you, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, pleasure to be on.
Okay, just so the listeners have an idea of who is who. Hayley, you are club's media manager. You're on Twitter at Newman Hayes, and I think I've said that all correctly.
Yeah, that's right. It's just a shortening of my first name.
Appreciate that. And Philippa, can you tell the listeners just maybe a little bit about what you do on the pitch?
Yeah, so on the centre mid, plays like a 10. Recently, from last season, I was playing at 8, so I was more of a box-to-box player, but far more attacking this season, which is good. Yeah, just loving it. every minute of it with some new coaches and everything like that. It's great.
Well, hopefully you bring some creative flair to this show, because I tend to be pretty formulaic. But hopefully we can do it all. But just before we start, I always like to get an idea of kind of what life is like for you both in terms of growing up and watching sport and things like that. And Hayley, you have a deep, dark secret that I'm sure will come out on the show. I wasn't going to bring it up, but people are asking about it, so we'll get there. So just, I mean, I guess we'll start with you, Hayley. Growing up, was sport in general a big thing in your home, and did you used to, I guess, go down to any other sport other than football and spend time at grounds or anything like that?
Yeah, football. Football mainly in our household. My dad's football mad. My brother's football mad. I think my earliest memories are actually more of my brother playing, and also playing like football games on like the PC with my brother, and growing up. And then I got into going to football. I played a bit. I wasn't anywhere near good enough to really keep it up, but loved other sports. I've gotten into like tennis, rugby, cricket. So if there's a sport on TV, I will be watching it at times. Visited quite a few grounds sort of over the years. Love an away day. Away days are fantastic when there's a big group of you, and best days have been as well at going to Wembley for cup finals.
And then Philippa, what about you? Did you grow up kind of on the South Coast, or did you grow up somewhere else and supporting a different team?
So yeah, I'm a Bournemouth girl at heart. So obviously now I play for Southampton, but I'm from Bournemouth myself. Since I was about 5 years old, I started playing football. I was like the only girl in my family until not very long ago. So it was very male orientated. My dad used to play football. I just was around football all the time. So it was just natural that I was going to be, I would take it up as such. So yeah, since 5 years old, I've just always played. It started off around Bournemouth area. Played out as far as like Weymouth, which is more Somerset way. It's quite a way, like the opposite side of Southampton, I guess. And then I've ended up the Southampton area now. But yeah, I've had a funny career, like I guess football career, here, there, and a bit of everywhere. I guess.
And I mean, coming off of a summer where we all got to watch the Women's World Cup and kind of take part in that, I guess, were you able to spend time kind of watching that, or in between kind of, working and getting ready for this season and everything else? And then I guess, did you notice kind of any more support for women's football in general from the the general public over the summer?
Oh, massively, yeah. So obviously it was televised, wasn't it? Far more than I think it ever has been. So whether it be like on the main TV stations, if it wasn't on there, it was always you were able to watch it over the internet or on your red button on the TV. So I watched as many games as I could, and it was a good standard. I think it's done us the world of good, and definitely off of the back of the World Cup, we've seen that women, it's grown massively, even in this short period of time, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I can only concur with what Phil said. The Women's World Cup was fantastic. I was like Phil, I tried to watch as much of the World Cup as possible. I think we had a family barbecue actually like one day, and I was like sat outside with my laptop watching one of the games because I was like, no, I'm going to watch this. I
tended to have it on, and generally the games were on pretty early in the morning, but then the later kickoffs would be about lunchtime, and I would just, if people were in the house, it was just, I just increasingly turned the volume up, as they kept talking, and it was just like this ongoing passive aggressive battle of me versus everybody else and me wanting to listen or have it on. So I fully concur with you there. And of course, England had a decent showing, maybe slightly disappointing in the end in the way that it happened against the United States. But, I just think moving forward from that, the kind of expectation in the United States was to win. I think England had fairly high expectations now. And I mean, I think it's actually a fairly smart move from the Women's Super League to open the season, kind of as we're talking. So of course, by the time this comes out, the first weekend of the Women's Super League will be done. But I mean, now they have launched kind of the player, so people can watch matches. I've signed up, so I'll be able to watch some of the teams be able to play. But I mean, just do you think that this momentum? I mean, do you see it as continuing from here, or do you think it's more of a because last time, I think after the last Women's World Cup, we saw it kind of this groundswell of support, and then it kind of tailed off. But do you think something's different this time?
Yeah, the marketing. Yeah, the fact that the clubs, the league, the mainstream media have gone, you know what, we're actually going to capitalise. We're going to continue the coverage that we were doing and doing everything they've done this, in preparation for the start of the season. It's been like building and building for the last sort of like couple of weeks for the Super League. It had to be done. And the fact as well that we've got several derbies now in that Super League. And I said it in the summer to a couple of people. It's like, if they do not market those properly, then they've lost out on something, because, as you say, the World Cup has been superb. You've got these big derbies that are well known in the men's game, and why not capitalise them in the women's game?
But also this season, like the derbies, they're getting played at the men's home grounds now. So that's a statement in itself, isn't it? That's what the top teams are planning to do. They're trying to put women's football in the biggest venue they can and get the crowds in, and then with the crowds comes the funding, the support, and it just goes hand in hand with one another, doesn't it? So I think the fact that, you got your United, your City, your Tottenhams, like supporting their teams and allowing them to be able to play in the men's home ground is a massive, massive boost for women's football as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be good, and I know that some of the grounds have made tickets very, very affordable, and in some instances given them away, and I think that's good, because I think if people show up and you're in this giant stadium, and we suffer from this in the United States, the MLS team that I support has just really fallen out with their fans, and so you watch a match on TV, and there's maybe 11,000 people there, maybe 6,000 people there, and it's in a stadium that holds 20 or 30,000, and so it looks really bad and it feels really bad, and then when you show up to it, it feels dead. So if they can fill the stadium initially and have those fans kind of their first experience of women's football be in a full stadium with a lot of atmosphere, then that's going to generate, even more excitement and kind of build on itself, I think. And then I don't think they'll have trouble kind of, maxing out the stadiums where they'd usually play their matches. So I think that'll be really, really good. Cause I think the women's football here in the United States, we have, the best team in the world, and we get, very little coverage, different pay, and all that other stuff. It's a lot different than the men's game, which is not as good after our 3-0 beating by Mexico on Friday. So it was not that fun to watch if you were. I doubt either of you were up, and I hope not. Anyway, I guess moving on. I mean, playing for Southampton Women's and being involved with Southampton Women's. It takes a lot of time, I'm sure. Hayley, I don't know how you manage to do all of the things that you do. But what do you do outside of this? What's the day job like?
For me, I'm quite lucky in terms of the hours I work now. I'm Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, but I just work in a generic call centre dealing with people's insurance. It's nothing spectacular, but it pays the bills, and the hours allow me to do what I do, and to the high standard that I do it, in terms of, like you say, about the amount of stuff that gets put out. If I was in doing shift work, I don't think I'd be able to do what I do.
It saves your creative energy for the club, But Phil, what about you? What's life like outside of football for you?
So, I'm a store manager at Starbucks. So I run and operate a store. So yeah, it comes with its challenges. Obviously, mine's not quite like Hayley's. It is shift work, which sometimes can be a challenge fitting it in with football. But yeah, I guess I'm lucky in the sense that you have to work hard to get to, but I've now got to the point where I can do my rotors and stuff and allow to make time for football and stuff like that. So yeah, I could have sorted your caffeine fix this morning.
Well, I will keep that in mind next time I'm over.
Yeah.
Make a special. I'll be honest. I try when I'm out new places. I try not to go to a Starbucks, but sometimes you just need the consistency that it provides. But I like to try local stuff if I can. But I'll make an exception.
It is nice, like local stuff. Yeah, supporting your local coffee shop is great, but you can't go wrong with Starbucks.
No, some driving home or after a match or something, just finding that and going like, I need that. That's what you need.
Yeah,
so.
no, it's all well and good, but until you turn into a caffeine monster like I am. Yeah.
How on average, how much coffee or tea do you consume a day?
Oh God, I try not to think about that. I try to make a conscious effort to not have too much. So I try to maybe have 2 to 3 drinks a day. But I do have black coffee, so it's probably a bit stronger than like your lattes and stuff like that. So yeah, but my pre-match game routine is to always have a coffee on the way to football. So you need to get these little rituals in your head, don't you? You just have to keep doing it, otherwise it's bad luck.
Absolutely. Hayley, what about you? Are you coffee or tea or nothing?
I can't stand coffee. I will drink tea. I've been drinking that a bit more the last couple of years, but generically I'm either water or sort of Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. That's kind of my drinking towel. But if I need a hot drink, it'll be tea in the winter, or when I'm ill, I'll grab a hot chocolate. I do like a hot chocolate, but yeah, I'm generally water.
Okay. My wife, the first time we sat down and talked before we were dating, or when we started dating, I worked at a coffee shop. She came to the coffee shop. She didn't drink coffee. Now we're absolute addicts. We have it all the time, and it's we have an espresso machine in the kitchen. It's a great. I think it's fantastic. I don't think the kids. There's no counter space because of the machine, but it's all right. But anyway, I mean, obviously you're both kind of involved with Southampton Women's Football Club, and I mean. What was the journey like to get there for you, Hayley, coming from a different postcode, we'll just say that, and moving over to the team? What was, how did you get involved with the media stuff in general, and then what led you kind of to the Southampton Women's Football Club?
I've kind of always wanted to pursue a career in sort of sports journalism. When I was at school, I loved writing, and I kind of figured from there, I was like, I want to be a journalist, and then I saw that you could do sports journalism at university, and I was like, right, yeah, that's the course I want to take. So I did that. When I came out of university, I couldn't find work, so I got involved with a radio show in Portsmouth for Express FM, their grassroots football show, and I was going around to various local football teams as a roving reporter and doing bits and pieces for them, and I got involved with Portsmouth Women. I was covering a couple of their games for the show, and then I was on the actual show itself as a co-host. And when that sort of show came to an end, I got asked by the then manager of Portsmouth Women, Perry Northeast, to come in and be their media officer, because they had just left that summer. So I started with Pompey, and the role grew very quickly. It was I went in just to do some match reports and some post-match interviews, and it just grew and grew to the sort of things I do today. I was with them for just over 2 years. And then in sort of November 2017, if I get my years right, I was given an opportunity to go to Chichester City Ladies. I knew the assistant manager at the time, who's our manager now, Aaron. He'd gone to Chichester, talked me up a bit, and they got me in there. And it was a great project. The 18 months I spent with them was superb, seeing the team develop. And when Aaron got made manager, to sort of see his progress and what him and Lee and the other coaches did at Chai was great. And I was able to put that out on social media in my role. They gave me great work. Everything that I put out was through their hard work. And then in this summer, Aaron moved to Southampton, and again, because we've got such a great working relationship, he sort of said to me, would you like to come and join us at Southampton? And I was like, he set out the plan that the club had going on, and I was like, you know what, that sounds fantastic. I want a piece of that. And it was a new league for me, to see some new teams, new grounds, new faces, and I thought, you know what, yes, let's get involved.
All right. And you put out a tweet recently. I just want to kind of follow up on it. It says most of the media officer role is actually admin work of updating stats information on the website and not a lot of article writing, interviewing, and filming that you think, because we see all of it, but I think everybody looks at it and says, oh, I'd love to write the articles and I'd love to, film and then cut the film and then, put it up on YouTube and do all this stuff. And like, that's all the fun stuff, right? Like that's the show that people listen to now. This is the fun part. It's all the other part of like trying to find stats on, for me, even as something I wrote over the last week, I got some stuff wrong because I just couldn't find the proper information. So you have like all this other stuff to do, but like, what are some of the kind of the behind the scenes stuff that people don't recognize about your role?
I think it's the information finding, like when you're trying to say, write a preview, which I've got to do for our game tomorrow against Exeter. It's finding the stats about how that team got on, what players have come in from where, because especially if some teams, because we're very much in the women's game, everyone's volunteered, so not everyone has someone like myself doing their media, so they're just sort of, it might be the secretary that's just posted on Twitter or Facebook to say, our next game is, this Sunday against so-and-so. So it's finding all that information, so and then what I've done for the last couple of for all the clubs I've been with is I started recording sort of like the stats, so I've got like the appearances and goals minimum for like those players so that I can work from that, so that when suddenly a club posts, this player has reached their 100th appearance, it's because we've had to search. And to be fair, those records aren't necessarily always accurate because I've had to go off of the full-time website that is used by clubs to record their fixtures and the stats for clubs. And you don't necessarily know how accurate those are. And they only go back to, I think earliest on some of the leagues is about 2005, and some of those stats aren't necessarily recorded to their fullest. So you can only go back so far. So you could say someone's got the highest appearance record for a club, but in actual fact it could be someone else, but you don't have the records for them. But it's keeping everything up to date. At the moment, the website that we have for Southampton, I think it's for the websites that I've dealt with so far with the 3 clubs I've been at, it's the one I've had to do the most sort of manual updates for it. So it's like there's, just say for the first team alone, the league table that appears on the website appears about 3 times. Each one of those I have to manually update.
Oh, no.
Everything. So it's like things like that. So trying to remember that. I mean, at the moment, I'm doing it. I've been able to like keep it up to date as best as possible. We'll see how up to date it stays, say come December, January, when we've had all sorts going on. The fixtures are normally the biggest one, trying to keep hold of that when you sort of tweet out saying, oh yeah, we've got, Buckland on November 11th, for example, and then someone goes, oh, hang on a minute, didn't you actually supposed to have Cheltenham? And it's like, yeah, it got changed because, weather and cup runs and God knows what else.
Yeah, and pitches that can't be played on and everything else.
Yeah, there's so much to it.
And Phil, in terms of your coming to Southampton, you mentioned you started playing kind of early on, and your family was pretty sports, I guess, crazy. What led you to play for Southampton Women's?
Yeah, so like, it was how I came across Southampton Women's was actually I was playing for another team in Southampton called Team Solent, and we played Southampton Women's one time and we got absolutely battered by them. And I thought, do you know what? I would love to play for them. And then, that must have been 5 seasons ago now. So I finished the season with Team Solent. They're a great team. But I just wanted to play at a higher standard. I wanted to, push myself as much as I could to see what standard I could get to with a team that was succeeding and, winning their games and just a good setup generally. So I trialled for them, and then obviously I got in. But I that was, like I say, this is my 4th season now with Southampton, and it was I've had a bit of a roller coaster journey, to be fair. Like, I started off as a reserve player for my first season, so I had to fight to make my own little place in the team. Like, so my first season, I was in and out of first team, but I was a reserve player actually under Smithy, which is our new manager. Now he's actually coached me before, which is great. That he's obviously come back now, because it's good to see how much he's grown as a coach and a manager. It's great. He's done such a good job. And then the season after, I became a first team, and then I've been in first team ever since. So it's just nice to see that, you started off from like a reserve player, and now you're starting 11, 90 minutes first team against, playing against teams that are absolute quality, like, playing against Southampton on Wednesday. Like, it's good to see you've come from A to B.
Yeah. And I guess I have a couple of questions in terms of, you've been around for a while now, and then Hayley, you're kind of new to the setup. And coming into this season, Hayley, how long did it take you to kind of figure out, what this team was about in terms of what their ambitions were and things like that? And how, coming in from the outside, like how, recognizable was that ambition right from the start for you?
Pretty much from the first conversation Smithy had with me after he had made his decision to join. So he sort of just told me the club plans, the club vision, which is really what sold me on coming to the club. I've moved clubs twice now, and I don't just move for the sake of moving. There's got to be a reason behind it, and to see clubs that have got ambition, they want to move up, and they've got structure in place. That's what you need to have, because there's not much money in the women's game, so you need to be able to be sustainable, because otherwise you'll go by the wayside. Unfortunately, our local neighbours, Southampton Saints, they folded in the summer because they couldn't sustain the team any longer. So it was good to sort of see that, and it was from that first conversation with Smithy, and then I met other members of the club, Amanda and Elliot, and it just sort of like went from there. And you can see that everyone's going, we want to get this club up the levels as far as we can.
And Phil, for you, having been there now for a couple of seasons and gone from reserve to first team player, and really, I think kind of almost an everyday starter. I think you probably show up expecting to play, and you've earned that spot. But now, has there been a sort of a change, or do you feel like through all of the coaching changes and everything that's happened at the club, like that the vision has kind of remained the same in terms of what the ambition is?
I think our ambition has always been the same, and it's, you don't play football at a standard that we do just to enjoy it. Every single one of us in the team, in the squad, throughout the club, we are there to get promoted. We're there to get promoted next season. Our ambition is to, is to get into the championship. Like, that's where we want to be as a club. That is our, our not even our end point, but that's where we want to get to at the moment. And that's not something that's changed. It's just something, you have different people and they have different influences. So Smithy comes in with a new management with, Lee and all the staff he's brought along, like with Hayley, Craig, goalkeeper coaches. It just reinforces where we want to get to, and they see things from different angles and different perspectives, and they just, I don't know, we obviously last season we wanted to get promoted, we didn't quite make it, so they just making tweaks, and hopefully this season, obviously we obviously want to get promoted again, but maybe this time with the experience they've had playing in a higher league, I don't doubt that we will get promoted. So yeah, it's always been there. It's all of the players know that, that is what we need to do. There's not a single person on in our squad that doesn't want to get promoted. I personally don't see the point in playing football if you don't want to do your best and see how far you can go. But it's good to have a squad that thinks exactly the same as one another. And I think that's really important.
And would you say that mindset is pretty consistent across the squad? Like everybody's there to not just to play and have a good time, but and of course, I mean, enjoyment is a part of it. But that we say that every member of the squad is there to kind of push forward and get promoted, and are willing to work as hard as possible to make sure it happens.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, the girls, we are all on the same hymn sheet. Like, it's been good with Smithy coming in and Lee and like I say, with Hayley pushing it on social media, because I think that's a side as well that we've not really had until this season. Like, it's been there, but it's not been anywhere near as publicised as this season, which is good as well. But no, all the girls are there. We're all here for promotion. That's the reason why we are in the squad. I think it's too tight to, if you weren't wanting to get promoted, I would doubt you'd be in the squad.
Sure. So, I mean, can we talk a little bit about now, I guess, just the start to the season? The season is still kind of young, of course, but you've played some extremely important matches already, and people should be kind of just reminded that to get out of this league, to be promoted to the third division, it's only one team in the entire division gets promoted, so you have to win. And in recent seasons, it's meant that, a single loss or a drop point is all it takes to kind of take you out of the running for that. And after several successive promotions, you guys have been, is this your third season in the division?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you rode that, and you guys kind of ran up the leagues, and now you're here, and you've been extremely competitive in the league, but the setup is difficult. But I guess for both of you, just seeing the kind of the some of the teams you that were chosen for friendlies early on in the season, both Tottenham Hotspur and Oxford United, those are difficult matches. And I mean, what was it like, I guess, for you, Phil, to kind of line up and play against those teams, and then for Hayley, going away to Oxford and seeing kind of were there major differences between what you see at home and what you see in the league versus what you saw when you visited there?
Yeah, so playing against like Tottenham Hotspurs obviously was absolutely surreal. They're a professional team; it's their job. They train twice a day, so it was nice to see what it would be like if you were to get to that point. Like, that's what I would always dream of, like being a professional footballer and getting paid for it would just be incredible. And then to see it actually happening, and then you're playing a team of outstanding and calibre, where they've got international, playing against people that have been playing at the World Cup. It's crazy. And obviously we knew it was going to be a tough game. But the experience, I don't think a single one of us walked off that pitch thinking, God, that was awful. I think we all relished it. Like, it was just amazing to, be able to play a team that has just got the staff set up. With the players were just amazing, and I don't think we embarrassed ourselves. I know it was like 7-0 or something like that, but you know what? I'll take that. All of us worked as hard as we could. I think we done ourselves proud. I don't know what you think, Hayley, but I was pleased with the team. I think it was a great team building game. I think we all just pulled together.
Yeah, the Spurs game, it was definitely a new experience for the team, because you are playing, while Spurs are only just going up to the Super League, they had spent something like 3 or 4 weeks prior to that game just together in training. As Phil said, training twice a day, like about 5 days a week. So when they turned up, they were fit. I mean, some of those players had already been playing Super League level football anyway, for like a couple of years. Others had been at least at the Championship. So they weren't amateurs. They knew what they were doing. The setup, when they turned up on their bus, I think they had half a bus full just of like their staff and like all the gear that the staff brought with them. They took about 10 minutes, I think, 10 or 15 minutes to clear it all off the bus to get it into the changing room. But yeah, no, it wasn't an embarrassment from the team at all. When you look at the standards, tier 1 versus tier 4, the team gave a good account on themselves and got unlucky a couple of times. There was a couple of breaks for the team. I think I remember screaming from the stands for Jane to very close to having a couple of sort of shots at goal. And as well, Rose Kite as well, it was her first game for the club that day, and she very much announced herself that day. She pulled off some amazing saves. When we confirmed that she had signed for us, I think the following day, suddenly everyone was going, yes, superb, superb, superb. And they forgot about the scoreline because they remembered all the saves that she did make, because then they were looking at going, actually, what this team could do in their own level is going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess watching from afar, I mean, obviously I don't get to see a lot of the matches, see highlights and stuff, but you see the score line and you see that, and then you realize that there's a lot more that's happening, beyond the score that I think you guys have nothing but you should do nothing but hold your heads up high for the way that match actually went, because I don't think the score line is an accurate kind of representation, and I don't think it's anybody's let it kind of impact them negatively, because you came out after that and you had wins against Kent and Moneyfields, and then you went into the league, and the league has gone well so far, the league and the League Cup so far, and you talked about Rose Kite, and I think that's as good a segue as there is in terms of getting into Wednesday, where that you guys played a extremely competitive, high quality match under the lights, and I think Rose came up big a couple of times, especially late. Took I don't know what was happening there towards the end with the Southampton forward deciding to do that, but anyway, I mean, can we talk about that match a little bit and kind of what it meant? What was it like, kind of leading up to that, especially midweek, and I guess in the old ground where you were playing beforehand?
Yeah, I think it was I think midweek games there's always a lot of hype about them, around them anyway. But for them to be against Southampton, newly promoted side, the girls, the talent they've got in the squad is obviously is very good. They got, again, England international. They've got a young squad, but very talented squad. Bittersweet, obviously, playing at Tottenham, because it was our home ground. So again, that it pushes us to try harder. Not that we don't ever not try hard, but I think it puts the ball in our bonnet a little bit more. And we always want to win our games, but I think we probably wanted to win that one a bit more. But yeah, I think on Wednesday it was a tough game. It was evenly matched in the first half, I would say, and then in the second half we had a few injuries. It got a bit tough. But we're lucky to have such a strong squad in the sense, you got Rose in goal, who's insane. Like, she pulls off the best days. Like, she's such a good signing for our team. And then you've got Lauren Cheshire, you've got Gracie White, you've got Loz Clark, you've got Emily. Like, the signings Smithy's made this season has just bolstered the squad. And I think it was, obviously we didn't want to walk away with a draw. But at the same time, like, I think we done well given the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, away to a team that's has to be one of the favorites, and getting that out of the way early, midweek, when I think that's good. You'll take a point there, I think, and hopefully when they come to you, you can you can kind of gain an advantage over them there, and for now you'll have to go and play kind of the rest of your season and just try, I guess, not to drop any points. But Hayley, you often, I think, don't get 0-0 draws at this level, and for you, I mean, that's everybody in America's biggest complaint about the sport is nobody scores. And then, by the way, we opened the American football season with a 10-3 absolute bore snooze fest on Thursday night. But and that good for everybody. I didn't watch it, but good for them. But for you with that match, I mean, there was a lot going on for a 0-0, I think.
Yeah, certainly. I was very much sort of like sort of busy away on sort of Twitter for those that weren't able to get down to the game. It's definitely my first 0-0 that I've experienced in women's football since I've been a media officer. But it wasn't a bore at all. There was attacks both ends. It was a very counter-attacking type game, and I think the whole crowd that was there, I mean, over 500 people turned out for the game, which was incredible for Tier 4. There's some teams, I think, in the Championship that would love those sort of figures for attendances. But, it certainly wasn't a poor game. It was played in good spirits from both sides. It was, I'd say, very attacking from both sides. The second half, the other Southampton, they sort of grew a bit more. I think, as Phil alluded to, a couple of the injuries that we got, I think, didn't help us necessarily. And they had players on the bench. They've got England youth internationals just all over the place, all over that team. And then they've added to that squad this season with some experience to the youth. And, Marianne, she's doing a decent job there, but they do have a very good budget to be working with. So you would expect them to be fighting at the other end of the table.
Absolutely. I guess looking at the table and looking at the other teams that are around, Phil, does anybody else jump out at you as big matches that are kind of circled for the team? And I realize every match is important because you can't afford really to drop them. But I guess I don't want to say who else are you worried about, but who else are you looking at and going, we have to make sure we bring it that day?
God, we got a tough ahead of us. We've got the top 5 in the next, few weeks. So we've got Exeter on Sunday, who are top of the league. Am I right, Hayley? They're top?
Yeah, top on goal difference.
Yeah, top on goal difference. So yeah, that will be a tough game on Sunday. And then I think the week after that, we've got Cheltenham coming up. We've got Buckland coming up. We dropped points against Buckland last season, so they're not one to be overlooked. Like, we just need to remain focused and just take every game as it comes. But yeah, do you know what? I think this season, more than any of the other previous seasons, it's a bit more wide open. I think last season it was just between us and Keynsham, but then there's far more teams in the mix this season. So Cheltenham have signed Kerry Bartlett, who scored like 60 goals last season for Keynsham. So yeah, I think it's going to be a weird, long season ahead of us, and you know what? We just need to pick up points against these teams. Don't drop any points. So yeah, like 1 point on Wednesday. Not the 3 we wanted, but that's what we need to do to keep ticking, because these teams will be taking points off of each other, left, right, and centre. So we just need to focus on ourselves and take every game as it comes, really.
Yeah, and I have to say, I apologize for we're scheduling this during what is potentially the busiest month for you possible, with games every weekend plus a couple of midweek fixtures. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. I mean, in terms of like a match day, Hayley, what is a typical match day? Most of your matches are played on Sunday, 2 p.m. kickoff, I think. Local time. And what does a typical match day look like for you? And then on top of that, do you have kind of any routines, anything you have to kind of do to get yourself ready to cover the game?
I don't really have any sort of like routines to get myself ready. It's just making sure I've got everything in my bag to go. I think everyone knows my backpack particularly is very heavy. I often say that I've got half a PC World in my bag when I'm going to games. So it's just making sure I've got everything in terms of social media wise. I try where I can to sort of schedule certain things so that I don't have to worry about them. So like the initial match day posts in the morning, getting that ready, like with the way social media is now, it's allowing you to sort of schedule tweets and schedule posts on Facebook. So I can kind of post them up and not worry about the fact that I need to put them up in the morning, especially if it's an early start, which we have got against Exeter, so I'll be trying to make sure I get everything scheduled, trying to get the information I need from the coaching staff about who's in the squad, so I've got that for the lineup. And then it's just home to away games are very different, because obviously away days, it's depending on how long the away journey is on what we're doing. Home games, you can be quite set in a way, so it's just getting to the ground. The sort of home games we've had so far, I've been able to be quite sort of chill when I get to the ground. I've been able to just sort of sit there doing a couple of things, and even prepping for like the next game we've got afterwards, so getting like those sort of posters up and ready, so that try and see like when we get to like the full time for our game, I can go, right, this game's over, but remember we're going to be home again on this day. So I have the plan in my head. It's just sometimes it comes out a little bit different.
It's time to find and do stuff on Sunday, Hayley, don't you worry.
And Phil, like, I guess I always am interested in the kind of the match day routine for you. So like, on like for tomorrow, of course, when people hear this, the game will have passed, but, getting up on a Sunday, or does your routine start kind of Saturday night? As a manager, do you try to schedule yourself off early that night, or what does your kind of routine look like?
Yeah, so I normally always put myself on the morning shift on like a Saturday, for example, so then I've got like the evening to chill. Obviously, make sure I have something good to eat on the night before, so just make sure that I'm prepared for tomorrow. If being in midfield, I do quite a lot of running, so I can't not eat anything, or I need to make sure I'm fueling my body properly, and then get a good night's sleep. But I wake up on the Sunday, and I just have my breakfast. I like to I hate rushing. If I'm rushing, I'm so stressed. So I just leave with plenty of time to get to like the meet point at like Fleming Park, where we get the mini bus or whatever. And as long as I've got my coffee, I'm fine.
And what's it been like this season? Aaron spoke kind of about how important he felt the team traveling together was. And I know in past seasons, it's been kind of get there on your own. And as somebody who's coached teams where we've had, kids' parents kind of dropping them off, 16-year-old kids, and having to drive 3 hours to a game and waiting for them to get there, and having kids get stuck in traffic separately and get separated and all this stuff. Like, how important has it been to kind of have the team bus and that kind of experience for you to be prepped and ready, and has the vibe changed from, just having two of you in the car, maybe driving by yourself to a match? Yeah,
it's definitely changed massively. So I think this season we are like a really close-knit team. And maybe that is partly to do with the mini draft and stuff like that. But obviously Aaron being Aaron gets us to do all these slimming, silly games on the bus, like singing and stuff like that, which he obviously loves. But for me, I'm not very good at singing, so it's not really my forte. But no, all of this brings the squad closer, and you could all be the best players, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to all gel on the team, on the pitch. Sorry. So all these little exercises he does. We've done team bonding sessions, like with the Navy, stuff like this. It all helps. And you know what? We are all gelling as a team more so than I would say in the past couple of seasons, which is great. And he's doing something right, which makes a change.
And then Hayley, you're on the bus as well, and you put out a tweet at the beginning of August. I have nabbed it. I tend to do that. Phil, you don't tweet a lot, so it was difficult to go back and find things to embarrass you. So
getting told off.
What's that?
I need to get better. I keep getting told off.
Don't. Do what you want. It's all right. The Twitter can be a nasty monster if you let it be, but I think you're fine. But Hayley, you said you think you finally found a team whose musical taste you can handle on away days. So I guess who's in charge of the stereo on the bus?
I think it changes sometimes. I mean, I think I'm generally on the bus most days on the way back, just because of the way sort of like we want to make sure the players are on the minibus rather than like the sort of staff. So it's like the players, and I think at least sort of Smithy and sometimes Lee are on there to get that sort of camaraderie going, because they're the most important guys. But I think it varies from sort of like a couple of the players. They bring the sort of a speaker or they have it going through their phone. But yeah, I do still stand by that tweet. I think that was on the way back from, I think, the Kent game. Yeah. But yeah, I think for me as well, it was more these guys, they actually allow a song to play right through. I've spent like the last 4 years only listening to like a third or a half of a song.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, especially when they finally find a song that you like and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I'm getting into this. And then it cuts off because someone suggested something else, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to listen to my own stuff now.
That is my biggest kind of pet peeve. It's the thing my brother and I argue about the most, because he cannot listen to a full song in the car. He has to change it constantly, and it drives me nuts. And I just say like, you know what annoys me more than anything else in the world? And he goes like, oh yeah, when I change the song constantly. And it's just like, so I get it. I don't want to tangent there, but yeah, I totally understand that. And I don't know, like I have been, since I've started following the team, and this has been, I think, I want to say 4 that I've been kind of around or watching, or maybe year 3, but it's the team has always continued to impress me, continue to grow, and kind of sometimes I wonder, how, like, can you get any better, and can the team kind of do more? And every season you tend to do that. And Hayley, you've done that with the social media side of things, and Phil, I think the on-field product has only gotten better, and getting to know some of you and kind of following along on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. The things you guys are doing, just not on the field, but also just in your personal lives, is all great. And I think it's truly a pleasure to be able to just be a small part of it and talk to you here. But I guess for you, we talked about ultimately promotion being the goal, and it's going to take a lot of work, and it's not something that happens overnight, and it's going to require kind of a lot of patience and diligence on your part and the rest of the team. But for you to coming into a new season, I guess, do you have personal expectations, personal goals that you set out for yourself in terms of what you expect from yourself, or do you sit down with the coaches and do that, or do you just show up kind of every day and say, I'm going to give the best I can, and these are things that I need to work on, and this is how I'll do it? Or kind of, how does that work for you?
So my personal goal is to continue pushing myself to see where, the highest standard I can play football with. And with Smithy coming in this season, we have 6 weekly development programs, which I've never had before with the team, which is obviously great, because it means that Smithy's giving me feedback on what I need to improve on, what I'm doing well at, and it gives me direction. So it's really important that I continue working hard to continually improve on my develop myself, pretty much. But no, I feel like I've come into this season far fitter than I ever have been, which is great. And I just really love playing for this team. I love all the girls. All the volunteers, everyone behind the scenes is fantastic. And yeah, obviously I want to do as well as I can for myself, but also just to say thank you. I'd love to get promotion and just thank everyone for getting us to where we are, because it's not just the players that, we're the ones that kick the ball around and score the goals to get promotion, but without people behind the scenes like Hayley, Amanda, you got your secretaries, your finance, you've got everyone there, you got your child protection, we've got our youth squads now, and without all of this set up, we would be nothing. So for me, obviously personally, I want to continue playing at a high standard, but I'd love just to get promotion and just be like, yeah, there we go. That's a thank you for everyone's hard work, in particular Amanda, for all of. I mean, I would hate to do what she does, and I don't know how she finds the time, but yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone for what they've done for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Amanda has been invaluable in my ability to kind of stay in contact with the club and do this, because she's been there through kind of all of the coaching changes and everything else that's gone on, and so she's been a huge help. And I mean, honestly, this season, Hayley, you've been a huge blessing to me because it's been so much easier to communicate with you and not feel like I'm putting the extra burden on Amanda. I do feel bad putting it on you, but knowing that Amanda has kind of all of the other stuff and me not wanting to do that to her, I appreciate. We've been in contact quite frequently, and I appreciate you being willing to do that and kind of put up with my questions and my scheduling and all the other stuff. So it's been just a thank you to you. And as you said, Phil, it's to gain promotion and just to be able to thank all the people that have helped you get there and helped the team and made sure the team is still around. I think that's a huge part. And a big part of it is also the sponsors for the club. And I know that at this level, you all rely on sponsors. The club relies on sponsors. And I don't know, Phil, if you want to tell everybody who is currently sponsoring you, or are you currently looking for a sponsor, and how do people deal with that?
If anyone's listening and they want to, sponsorship, they want to sponsor me, then hit me up. I can get you sorted. I can head you to the right people, but no. Obviously, it's tough finding sponsorship. But for players and for the team as a whole, it is hard. But we'll get there. We will get there.
Definitely sponsor Phil. One of the good ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we will, of course, put your contact information, everything in the show notes. And then also, the email for Amanda Burrows, the club secretary. So if we're interested in doing that, we can drive people there and they can get in touch with you and Amanda and Hayley and get it all worked out. But we have a couple of questions from a couple of people who have written in. And actually one for each of you. Phil, we'll start with you. It says, good question for Phil. How much time during each training session do you spend fixing your hair?
Well, I can imagine that this was Smithy sending this in, and my reply to that is nowhere near as long as you spend time doing yours, Smithy. So, right back at you, mate.
Sounds like extra sprints. And Hayley, it says, question for Hayley. I think this guy didn't say, don't say my name, so I will. It comes in from Craig Burns. And he says, as a diehard Pompey fan and a season ticket holder, how hard was it to convert yourself to saying those words for the Southampton postcode side of Hampshire?
Not hard, to be fair. And when the Pompey side of me, the fan in me, is very much sort of like going, no, don't do it. But the sort of media officer, professional, is like, it doesn't matter to me. And when I'm in this role, I'm very much a professional. I want to be doing this full time, getting paid to do it. So, there's nothing wrong with saying the word Southampton. It's what you do. So it wasn't hard at all. But Craig can talk. He's another Pompey fan. In fact, he's got it written on his body. So I'll throw that back at him as well.
Oh no, that's no good. I mean, I wasn't going to say that. We have a somebody born in Bournemouth. We have a Pompey season ticket holder and me, and we're sitting here, and none of us are originally from the Southampton postcode talking about Southampton. So I guess there it goes. But and I think I was going to make a joke earlier about we have another midweek kind of local derby coming up, and that will be interesting. But maybe we just agreed not to talk about that for today. We'll just leave it alone.
Definitely.
And in terms of you being a professional with being able to say Southampton, generally when I type Portsmouth or Pompey, I don't type the O. I type an asterisk. I don't know how to say it instead, just so nobody can search it and find it. So that's my secret of being not professional, and I don't care.
I think sometimes I've shortened it over to Soton a lot of times, so SOTON.
Yeah.
Over the years, but I've got used to Southampton. I'm at the club, but it's no skin off my nose.
That's right. Well, I mean, this has been a pleasure for me to be able to do this and sit down with both of you and talk about this. And I think the season is a long season, and it's going to be at some point a grind and getting up and doing it. And they're going to be, I think the weather's been fairly nice. I think it was a little cooler midweek for you too, but I I think at some point the weather will turn into normal kind of English weather, and it'll be cold and wet and everything else, and you'll have to kind of go out and do it in not the nicest of conditions. But I don't know. I just wish you both all the best going forward. And I Hayley, I can't stress enough how much I enjoy just following along on Twitter and being able to see the post-match reactions from the manager and from some of the players, and then having access to the match reports and then the photo gallery and all that other stuff that goes into, running the club in a professional manner. As someone who, obviously I do this show, there's a lot that goes on that nobody ever notices, and nobody, if you talk about it, it just sounds like you're complaining, even if you're really excited about it. So you don't talk about it. So I know that there's so much there, and the weight of your backpack is definitely one of those things that I understand. As somebody who tried to take all of their podcasting stuff across the Atlantic Ocean and the entire United States when I came over. So I get it. So I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done, and Phil for going out there and doing all of the running. Midfielders are something that I never want to be. So thank you for doing that. And I don't know. I just want to say thanks again, because it's been great.
No, thank you for having us. Really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having us. It's great what you do, and to sort of especially highlight us, our Southampton women's team. Yeah, I have to try. Sometimes I get a little bitter at the other side because of how it all went down, but we'll leave that out. But that's another podcast.
Yeah. I do have one more question for each of you, and I tend to ask this question to all the players that come on. I used to say partially because I have a daughter and I want it, but I think this is for everybody. But Phil, I mean, you've made it to this level, and of course you have had to you start at the reserve team and play at a team that was not quite at this level before. But I mean, for you, if you could look back, I guess, to yourself at a younger age, what advice would you give yourself or anybody else that wants to play at the highest level they can? Like, what would you say to them to that they should know, or maybe just to give them some encouragement? Just
to always, try your hardest. I think sometimes people, if, you think you could be playing at a higher standard, but you're not quite there, you just need to keep plowing through it. Like, you're not going to get anywhere without hard work. Even if you have talent, without hard work, you're not going to get very far at all. You just need to put in the time and just keep going. And if you've got competition, then take it on and prove that you're the better, you're the best there to be for the position. And you just need to keep continually pushing yourself, trying to improve, get fit, and then it all falls in place.
All right. And then Hayley, I mean, for you, for somebody looking to get into sports media, has there been any advice that you've been given, or anything maybe that you've learned that you could pass on to somebody looking for that? Because I know that there are a lot of people who pop up who want to do that sort of thing, and they start writing or they start doing this or that, and then they find it to be, maybe not what they expected. So is there any advice you have for anybody out there?
I think what you just said there is not what people expect. I think it's a big one. I think when I was at university, one of the things that our lecturers sort of drilled into us a bit was you don't get into sort of journalism for the money, because they sort of say, like, your starting salaries aren't necessarily like the brilliant figures that you might see some of the sort of like the top journalists or top sort of pundits do earn. So that's kind of always stuck with me, especially as a volunteer, because I'm very much not getting any money. The same with everybody at the club. And to anyone wanting to get into it, I would say do exactly what I'm doing at the moment. Get the experience with a local club. So even if it's not football that you're not a fan of, but if you're like any sport, go and find your local club, because I'm sure they would absolutely love to have someone come down and do something that's promoting their game, even if it is just writing a report on what happened in the last game, doing interviews. You can start off small. You can literally just be doing reports and interviews and build from there. Like, seriously, there are so many, even in, say, the Southampton area, there'll be so many local clubs that you can go and help. Football, as I say, other sports. Just go and get that experience. Talk to people, other journalists, get advice, go and do work experience for your local paper, because I've done that. I've gone and worked for the Southern Daily Echo, the paper in Southampton. I've worked for the paper in Portsmouth, the Observer in Chichester. I've done bits and pieces for them. It all adds to your CV. It all adds to your portfolio, and you'll get feedback. Take the feedback as well. Take the good, take the bad. I'm always asking people, when people sort of say, oh, that didn't look quite good, or that didn't quite work, I take that on board and go, right, well, what can I do next time? Rather than just constantly getting the, oh, that's fantastic, that's brilliant. It's great getting that positive feedback, but where can I learn from it? That's what you need to do. And it's take the knockbacks as well. I think we're in a day and age where people don't like being told no, or they're not good enough. You have to include everybody, but it's, where do you learn if you don't fail?
Yeah.
If you're constantly on a high, when you get that knockback, you could probably set back ages, because some people are too used to being told they're fantastic when actually they might not be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a really good point there. It's, you're not going to start a Southampton podcast or a Portsmouth podcast or any podcast or anything or get into sports media and immediately be sitting down and publishing pieces for The Guardian or get hired by The Athletic or anything like that. Like, that's not how it works. And that doesn't even necessarily have to be the goal. It's just, you got to do this because you love it. And Phil, I think you play football because you love it. And, promotion, of course, is the goal, and pushing yourself to get better is the goal always. But if you don't love it, it'll show. And I mean, I think, Hayley, like, the doing all of this stuff that you do, you're doing it, to build your CV and all that other stuff. But that's not the main reason. If you didn't enjoy it, if you didn't love it, then it would show in the work. And I think that the level of dedication and the passion that's both on the pitch and off the pitch for everybody involved in the club is truly astounding. And it makes doing this just the absolute best thing. So, I think sometimes people get I guess a bit cynical about football, and it's nice to see that it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, there's so many people involved in women's football. I mean, the privilege I've had working at 3 clubs now, I've been able to see so many different people that invest so much time, so much of their own money into the game to make it a better place. I mean, I hate to keep on bringing up, say, Portsmouth, but when I was at Pompey Ladies, in the beginning, they had a gentleman, David Coyle, who's sadly no longer with us, but he spent 25 years at that club doing absolutely all sorts. He used to, just for training, he used to go around the city collecting the girls and making sure they got to training. He would take them to match days. And, he was awarding an award for long-standing achievements in the women's game by the FA a few years back. And that was very well earned. And in fact, it wasn't just Portsmouth that nominated him for that. It was another club. But there are so many people that do so many good things in women's football, and they go underappreciated. I mean, you thanked me a lot for what I've done, but that's because it's on show for people to see. There are so many other people that do tiny little things for the club, for Southampton, that I don't even necessarily know who they are and what they're doing. But if they're listening, thank you. I mean, I've only been at the club for 5 minutes, but I know that there's people out there that are doing some fantastic stuff and making sure that I can do what I can do, Phil can do what she can do, and gives Smithy and Lee the opportunities to do what they're doing as well, to coach the team.
Sure. All right. Well, if people want to get in touch with you two, specifically on Twitter, they can do that at Newman Hay and at Philippa Holden. The club's website is southamptonwfc.co.uk, and that link is in the show notes. For sponsorships and everything else, you have all the links down there to get in touch with people. And I mean, you guys are doing great things on and off the pitch, and I wish you the best. And I look forward to catching up with hopefully some more of you in the next couple of weeks. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And that does it for this episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Hayley Newman and Philippa Holden. You can find them on Twitter at NewmanHay and at Philippa Holden. Once again, links are in the show notes, as well as those links for the Southampton Women's Football Club. And thank you to everyone there for allowing me to be a part of such a wonderful club, and just be an observer and be somebody who gets to talk and learn a little bit more and educate myself and hopefully others on what's going on locally in Southampton with one of the oldest football clubs in the city. If you're interested in sponsoring a player or the club, please get in contact with the Secretary, Amanda Burrows, at secretary@southamptonwfc.co.uk. That is the best person to contact in terms of setting up a donation or a sponsorship for the players who at this point still have to come up with some funds in order to be able to play, because things are not free. And you heard Hayley, of course, talk earlier in the episode about the Saints Girls and Ladies Club folding this summer due to funding and other issues. So we don't want that. And the Southampton Women's Football Club is doing a lot of good things in the community, a lot of good things for women's football in general. And so I'd like to make sure that all of those players have the ability to show up and play each and every day and not have to worry about the financial cost of playing. The show would not be possible without guests like Hayley and Philippa, would not be possible without listeners like you, and it would not be possible without the help of the partner page of the show, the Southampton page. It's where you should go for all your Southampton FC news and needs. Additionally, the logo for the show is done by Matt Beeling. The music comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that may be ending somewhere around now, or maybe it's still going, I don't know, is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. If you want to get in touch, you can do that on Twitter or Instagram at SFCDELL_IVERY, or on Facebook at facebook.com/SFC Delivery. You can also get in touch with us on the website, where you can sign up for the newsletter and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And I'd just like to thank you once again for listening. We'll be back next week to talk about Sheffield United, and we'll talk about whatever happens between now and then with the team. So until then, thanks for listening, and remember that together, we march on. We lost her.
Phil?
She is not on the call.
Oh.
It's probably the best question I've asked the entire time.
Yes.